It's Christmas Eve. I can't shut my brain off. And I was just thinking about these conversations that we've been having, about a lot of these older people, discussing the gender war and gender dynamics, right? A lot of divorced people, a lot of people who married too early, had kids too early. And I mean, amazingly, even people who got married seemingly, aren't satisfied, right? And Cap called this out a long time ago. And he said that the biggest mistake a lot of people make is whenever their relationship falls apart or something happens, right? Or like with the women, well, you could say this is both genders, but like example, like women who have kids too early, they never get to go through the thirst mode. They never get to go through the thirst phase, right? This is what you typically see with Crystal and Karazin and her channel and the images and the photos that she posts, which look good, but I'm just saying, she had it, there's a lot of people, a lot of women online, they never get to go through the thirst mode. You see that we saw this with Ayesha Curry. Okay. There's a number of women online that this is like an issue. They go and, they never get to be an adult and operate, single and childless and get their own, apartment and, just live life and go out there and not have anybody to answer to or not have anybody that's dependent on them and go to the club and all that other stuff, right? And for men, it's delayed. For men, men's biggest problem is for a lot of men, it takes so long to get established. One of two things happen. Either they get married along the way of getting established, and they're on their way. They're moving up. They're progressing. They come across that attractive black woman that's doing the same thing. They get married. They have kids, right? And then when they come out of that marriage, typically, the man's he's going to be more established than he was going into the marriage. And what ends up happening is the problem is they got married so early or had kids so early that, if the marriage falls apart, they're eager to go back on the market and they want to, basically, continue where they left off, but only this time with more resources, right? And so with the women, you'll see, they want to continue where they left off, right? They'll once their kids become grown, once they have, once they get a divorce, they try to, continue where they left off. And the biggest issue with a lot of these people that are in their, 40s is they forget, how much time has passed. And they think that like, oh, I'm just gonna go right back to where I left off, male and female. I see this with Dennis. He's trying to, start where, or not start, but continue where he left off. I see this with Kevin Samuels. He wants to continue where he left off. I see this with Karazin. Continue where she left off, even hypothetically speaking. And then again, for her, she's married, but the whole continue where you left off, goes into that whole Ayesha Curry like thirst, concept because they never got to experience. So once, the kids get grown, even though she has 3 more and she's still raising, but I'm saying once the kids get grown, or at least they start leaving the house, leaving the nest, it's like, okay, I have more free time. Okay, I can go out here and I can, get attention and shine and, all this other stuff. All right, we don't have a full picture or a full scope of what's going on in all of these people's lives, but, looking at it, it just sitting back and looking at all these older people, and when I say older, I don't mean like they're senior citizens, but I'm saying they're older. They're not in that 20-something year old, phase. But if you really listen to them, They all seemingly are having midlife crises, and they all want to, go out here and relive their 20s. That's what they want to do. Now, Cap is pointing out this fact about, that, there is a second wave of dating. And it typically does happen in your 40s because people who had their kids in their 20s, right? Those kids are grown and those kids will have moved out and all that stuff. And, when you're in your 40s, you're still relatively young. Your body falling apart hasn't hit yet. Which is what's going to happen when you start creeping into your 50s and your 60s. The body's going to start breaking down. You're going to start having the aches and pains, a lot more. And so, these people, they feel that I still have vitality. I'm not old. I'm not a senior citizen. But to young people, you old. And it's like a lot of people don't want to accept that. Don't get me wrong. Getting old sucks. You know what I'm saying? I'm borderline having, midlife crisis and shit like that. I don't put that on anybody like as though, that's not a reality for me. Everybody's going to get old. Everybody has their time on the dance floor, and then everybody is expected to get off the dance floor and then let the next generation get on the dance floor and have their time and have their shine and have their spotlight. But if you look at all these personalities on YouTube, all these people, it's like freaking Highlander and shit, forever young. You know what I'm saying? Like they just want to keep going. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, yo, it's not your time anymore. And then what you end up with is a situation where both men and women both end up looking foolish. They end up looking foolish. Because it's like, yo, you're the next 10 years you might be a grandparent. Or less than that. You might be a grandparent. And it's like it doesn't really register, with them. That people are not running around looking for 40-year-olds. I mean, to further highlight that point, the 40-year-olds aren't looking for 40-year-olds. The 50-year-olds aren't looking for 50-year-olds. Everybody wants to, have, somebody young, somebody with vitality, somebody with energy, somebody that makes them feel, and this includes women as well, somebody that makes them feel young again. We've all seen the old people in the club. I mean, this is like, I call it Peter Pan syndrome, this whole aspect of never wanting to grow up. Which when you look at the black community and you look at all the problems that we have, it's exacerbated. It makes it worse. It's like worse for us. This whole attitude of not wanting to grow up because it spills into other areas, because people that don't want to grow up, they don't want to, they're not thinking about grandkids, they're not thinking about legacies or generational wealth. That's not their focus. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the rhetoric that I've put out there is very popular to say legacies and generational wealth. Everybody loves to say legacies and generational wealth now. But when you listen to the conversation, when you listen to the discussion, it revolves around, sex and attention. I want sex and attention. That's what I want, sex and attention. And I'm like, where does sex and attention, come into play when you're talking about legacies and generational wealth and raising the kids, that you still have? Again, this goes both for men and women. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of attention seeking, that I see, online. And I was just thinking about it, and then I was reminded of what Captain Solo said. He said this on numerous occasions. Like he said it like he's like, I already know what this is. I'm like, what is that? And he's like, people want to continue where they left off. They get out of the divorce, continue where they left off. They want to, it's like, even with Cheska Lay, she shaved her head. I was like, why would you do that? Right? I must formulate a new identity. I must, absolve myself of, my ex-husband's cooties. I don't know. That's what it seems like. But women do that all the time. They get out of a relationship, they change their hair color, they shave their head, they get a new hairstyle. You know what I mean? They start wearing makeup different. They get new outfits. They got to become a completely different person, which is just weird. But that's what women do. You know, men. I don't know what men do. They typically just try to go out there and be a bachelor and run through a whole bunch of bitches. Because that's what most men want to do. I mean, that's the honest truth. That's what most men want to do. Most men want to have money and be established when they are young. They don't want it when they're older. They want it when they're young. And then be able to, run through a whole bunch of bitches. But if you're like if it took you a while to get established, you don't get to do that. You went out there, maybe you found the best black woman, for you at the time, and it was great. But then when it doesn't work out, it's like, because that's what, if you notice, like, that's what happens. Like, for the black people that get married early, you know what I mean? They make everybody else feel like, we're all left behind, right? They're married. They make everybody else feel like they don't have their lives together, but their lives are so together and perfect, right? And they're just happy, and everybody's wishing that they had their life and whatnot. You know what I mean? But for the people that have some, cool about themselves and some desirability, swag, whatever you want to call it, both male and female, they go out there and they have their little fun, and they go out and they experience life, and they travel, and they do all this. The married people, a lot of times they don't get to do that. They get married, and then they immediately go into popping out kids. This has been a major thing that Captain Solo and myself have constantly talked about enjoy your wife. We have this saying called enjoy your wife. The first year or two that you get married, and again, this is predicated on, you being established and being able to, afford these things, but, enjoy your wife. Don't be going out there and, immediately pumping her up full of a bunch of babies, and then you're bogged down with responsibility for the next 18 years or more. Enjoy your wife. Travel. Go places. Just you and her. You know what I'm saying? Go on a couple cruises. Go to Italy. Go to China. Go to Japan. Go to South America. Go to South Africa. Go and see the pyramids of Egypt. I'm saying do shit. Go places. Then when you're like, okay, we did all that, then you raise your family, you have your kids, take your family on a couple family trips, again, if you can afford it. This goes back to the whole, gainful employment. I don't need to explain all that. And then when your kids are grown, then, you retire, and then you go on a couple more trips, and then, you die, and that's the end. People seem to think that life is supposed to be like this great, like, extravagant thing, and it's really not. If you talk about family, you go through your adolescence, you discover your identity, you go to, school, or you immediately start working, you date a little bit, you find the person that you are compatible with, you fall in love, you get married, then you, decide to have kids. But like I said, have that window in there where you can enjoy each other childless before you go off and decide to have kids. Okay? That way you can get certain things out of your system, right? You already got a little bit of dating out of your system. You've experienced other people. I don't believe in this soulmate, childhood sweetheart thing. It may work for some people. I don't think it works for most people. I think for most people, especially the women, because I've definitely seen it in the women, they end up having regret about not experiencing anybody else. I've heard that several times from several women of different races. The ones that get married early and they've only been with one person, most of them regret only being with one person. I've never been with anybody else. The idea that they're going to die and have only experienced one person starts fucking with them. Okay, and then, again, the midlife crisis and, what you see with Aisha Curry and all that. I don't understand what people don't understand about individual personal growth before you go out there and get involved with other people. Letting everybody pressure you. Oh, well, you should be doing this, and oh, you should be doing that, and this, that, and the third. Yeah, we all should be, like you don't really have time to waste. You don't really have time to bullshit. But discovering yourself and the things that you want to do is not a waste of time. That's not just bullshitting. Because the people that sit there and they dive right into something, I'm telling you, I see a whole bunch of regret. Now the religious people come through. Irony, the religious people should come through, even though, they're hypocrites. But I'm saying the religious people typically come through, the people who actually really follow and aren't just full of shit. They'll tell you that no, you should settle down and da 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 da, and be with one person and all this other stuff. They'll tell you all that. In reality, I'm telling you, there's a lot of dissatisfaction that comes out of that. I mean, if you don't have anything to compare to, how do you know that what you got is so great? That's my whole thing. How do you know if you don't have anything to compare it to? Nothing at all. So I'm just saying, looking at just taking a step back, looking at all these people putting out content and putting out videos, and a lot of them, male and female, biggest issue, they went out there and had kids too damn early. They started a family too early. They didn't get to enjoy, what they wanted to enjoy. They didn't get established first as a single childless person, for the men, and then, settle down after they were completely on. The women, they had babies too damn early, and they didn't get to enjoy, being, whether you want to say she's being a thought or riding the cock carousel or just getting attention from men, just having somebody just sniff their behind. That's what women want. They want the attention. But see, the problem is once they get married, and it's like, again, the Ayesha Curry situation, off limits. You know what I'm saying? Nobody trying to give Ayesha Curry. Why? How? What? You got one of the wealthiest men in the NBA. Like, dudes know that there's no way to get that. There's no competition. But it's like, she's like, oh, I would just like to hear somebody tell me how much they thirst me. And that's the reality is men, they shut that off. Like once they see a woman and they're like, yo, I can't compete with her man, men, we just shut it off. You know what I mean? We may sit there, yeah, that's a fine looking chick or whatever, but we just shut it off. And Ayesha Curry, she's an attractive woman, but I don't think that, I don't know, at least for me, it ain't no to the death. You know what I mean? It's not like there's other, women on Instagram or something like that I would rather thirst than Ayesha Curry. So, again, that's one of those areas where people jump and say, oh, it's light skin. It's always light skin. Light skin wins every time. And I'm like, Ayesha Curry, I think a lot of people agree with the whole Ayesha Curry thing. I mean, she's all right, she ain't, to the death, But I don't know. This is what I think. I think that Captain Solo. Sorry, I'm eating, but I'm hungry. I think Captain Solo was right in his assessment. And the thing is, this isn't even really for the people that, already are trying to do what they're trying to do. This is for younger people who, aren't settled yet. Okay. You need to know this and have this in your mind before you get there so that you're mentally prepared when you get there. I always say this, when it comes to all these issues in the black community and whatnot. I'm telling you, the biggest issue that I see is the fact that people are not told the truth and they don't get the information so that they can process it and digest it, before, they get to that point. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, You will get old and you will die. That is a fact. Okay? It is a mathematical certainty. You know, as Sir Andrews would say on the Titanic, right? You know, she can and she will. It is a mathematical certainty. Death is a mathematical certainty. And when you're young, you don't think about that shit. You don't think about getting older. You don't think about, ever being less attractive than you are right now. So I feel like if people would recognize this stuff, it's like, inner city Philadelphia. Sometimes I wish somebody would just have all the black males in an auditorium and tell them the goddamn truth, that the whole world is against them, that nothing was set up for them, and that the best shot that they have for their future is killing everything that they touch academically. And that's how they can possibly, get out of this situation, or the most likely way for them to get out of the situation. But tell them the truth. But nah, black parents, they don't tell them the truth. They tell them some old fluffy Care Bear shit. Yahweh, Allah, Jesus, Hotep, the melanin content defeats white supremacy and stuff like that. And they don't tell them what they're really up against. Because the parents don't want to be embarrassed by the fact that they didn't really, set anything up or prepare their children for the ugly reality of the world. So they just deny the ugliness of the reality of the world. And then the kids go out there completely unprepared. They're not even thinking about it, not even remotely about how bad, the situation is. Ergo me coming online and, making all the videos that I've made over the years because, I wanted to figure it out. I was looking at the situation like, yo, this is like fucked up. I wanted to know what was going on. I wanted answers. I wasn't getting answers. So I just kept digging and pissing people off until I got some damn answers. And we got a lot of answers, didn't we? Yeah, I'm just saying, that whole again, you don't get any do-overs, in life, this whole course correction and everything else like that. Like, you go around this motherfucker one time, once. That's why, decisions like who you link up with, who you, father or mother a child with is extremely important. It is not something to be taken lightly. And that's the best advice I can give you. It is not something to be taken lightly. Because I'm saying, if you look around and you look at all these people that came before you, and all these people that are middle-aged, you know what I mean? And what do? You see them running around panicking, trying to adjust, trying to go back and reach back and relive their youth and all that other stuff. And it's like, damn, what the hell were you doing for the last 30 years? Seriously, what were you doing? So, just something to think about. Anyway, that's all I got to say. That's my video. SWP out.